let's come back here at home for a moment and go back to politics and the White House. And some critics of the Obama administration are accusing the White House of something called, quote, gangster politics in this case. The charge is that companies that do work for the government but give money to Republicans could get shut out of those contracts in the future. So is this really happening? A fair and balanced debate on this now. Democratic strategist Bernard Whitman, and former pollster for President Clinton, and he's a former pollster for President Clinton. And then we hop over to the other screen there, former Republican Congressman of Iowa, Fred Grandy. Gentlemen, welcome. Good to have you both here.
Thank you.
Let's lay this out first. This is an executive order that may be signed by the president, which would force all companies to disclose any donations that they might make to political parties, and in particular to third-party political parties. And, you know, we all know what that means in this day and age. That points pretty directly to the Tea Party. So it would force them to disclose any money that they are giving to any of these groups in conjunction with bids for government contracts. That's raising a lot of eyebrows. Fred Grandy, what's your take on this?
Well, I found it interesting that Alan Combs was talking just briefly in your segment before about how the Republicans and the president were going to work together now on budget issues. This is an odd way to do it, because what essentially he's telling Republican businesses is you're either with us or against us, and if you're against us, you're not going to get contracts. Now, this doesn't just apply to political candidates. It applies, as you pointed out, to third-party groups. So let's take another anti-business move, the National Labor Relations Board decision to deny Boeing's attempt to move facilities to South Carolina, a right-to-work state. If Boeing were trying to appeal to right-to-work groups or third-party groups, they could conceivably lose contracts under this provision because of the attempt to try and enact an issue that was in their best interest. So this has nothing to do with free enterprise. It's got nothing to do with entrepreneurialism, and in my view, is crony capitalism.
Yeah, you know, Susan Collins, who is, you know, a very moderate member of the GOP and has voted, you know, with the other side of the aisle many times, she's very upset about this, Bernard Whitman. She says that this basically is the equivalent of repealing the Hatch Act, which was the seminal 1939 law that was designed to weed out federal pay-to-play. This is getting a lot of backlash from folks out there. Bernard, your take on it.
Martha, let's get the facts straight here. Government contractors are already required to disclose contributions they make or any of their directors make to PACs, and this has been the case for many years. All this law does is extend the disclosure requirement to ensure that anyone that is contributing to a third party that then contributes to a campaign also gets disclosed. It's the obvious and necessary action that we have to take in the wake of Citizens versus United, and it's absolutely in keeping with all the federal campaign disclosure laws that have been on the books for years. So to suggest that this is somehow some major attack on Republicans is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah,
That's number one. And the Supreme Court has 30 years on record of saying that disclosure does not inhibit free speech at all. And a justice no less conservative than Antonin Scalia said that requiring people to stand up in the public forum and disclose their activities helps foster democracy and is essential to good governance. So I don't understand what the Republicans are complaining about.
This editorial from the Wall Street Journal today says the White House is spinning this as reform, which is what you're claiming it is as well here, claiming that taxpayers deserve to know how federal dollars are being paid to contractors that spend in campaigns. She says, this is Kimberly Strassel, she says this might hold a drop of water if the executive order also required all liberal entities to get billions of taxpayer dollars via federal grants and funding, unions, environmental groups, Planned Parenthood to disclose also, but it does not ask them to disclose also.
Well, Martha, if I could, if this is such a great idea, then why didn't the Disclose Act pass in a Democratic Senate in the last session? That was an attempt to move legislation that would upend the Citizens United decision. That failed. A majority of Democrats. So the president doesn't have a legislative initiative, and he's now trying to do with a signature what he couldn't get through the Senate. If this is such a great idea, Mr. President, put it in legislative form, send it back to the Senate, send it to the House, and see if it becomes law. But my guess is he knows that won't happen, so he's trying to do this
by executive order.
But you raise a great point. Why did it fail? It failed by one vote in the Senate because of the ridiculous laws and Senate procedures, I should say, regarding filibuster. It came 59 votes, fell one vote short. We can't get stuff done in the Senate because the Senate rules are absurd. 92% of the American people want disclosure. 92%. we can't get 92% of Americans to agree on anything except perhaps that killing bin Laden was a good idea.
Bernard, you know how that works with polls. You know that their understanding of disclosure may vary in terms of how it applies to this law. And I just want to point out, we did the story here on America Live last week about Howard Solomon, the pharmaceutical executive who that there's an effort to push him out of his job. There's also the effort that you cited, Fred Grandy, about the NLRB and Boeing. So that when you put all it together, it makes the administration look like it is very anti-corporate, which they have been accused of being in the past. So we'll see how this plays out, and the whole jobs picture looms large over all of this in terms of creating jobs in America.
I don't know how anti-business this president could be. We just added 244,000 private sector jobs. This year is the most in 5 years.
All right, we'll see.
Well,
that's
terrific. That probably has to do with extending the Bush tax cuts.
Fred, we got to go, guys. Bernard, Fred, big issue. We'll talk more about it. We appreciate you being here today.
Martha.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
Martha.